Hey guys, Casey here with FarmHacker.com, and today I'm with my friend Adon, who makes maple syrup from his own backyard. And today, in part 2 of this series, Adon is going to show you how to collect and store maple sap before boiling it into maple syrup. Oh, it's frozen.
Yeah, it should have been. It could have came out on Thursday, but
oh, that's a bummer.
yeah. When I was on.
Is there anything you can get underneath that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you could see when
Yeah.
I push it up, you could see the liquid content of the sap. So hey guys, are you going over there? And you could see a little bit come out. That's okay. Tricky.
Can you hold that?
Well, it's frozen, so I should have came on Thursday.
Yeah, just leave it. Just 30 seconds.
Oh, that's it, huh?
You can flip it upside down.
Yeah.
Want me to grab it? Yeah, ready? It's still dripping.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, you were you were telling me about these spiles.
Yeah, so this is a pretty
cool,
slick
actually.
system. So
Yeah.
it's this metal wire. You just drill. It's a pretty thin gauged spile that went in there, and you just hammer it in up here, and it has this nice hook on it. So you can just hang these buckets. Already have the hole drilled, and then this just fits around the side.
Oh, that's great.
Do you know how
That's
many
pretty
gallons
slick. This is a 2-gallon
a
bucket.
2-gallon bucket, and that was most of these. When did he?
So these
Tap these.
were tapped on. So today's Sunday. These were tapped on Tuesday.
Oh yeah. The whole
So
thing.
5
was,
days
look,
ago, and then on Friday
The
we had
whole
that
thing
cold spell
Yeah.
was
where it
frozen.
got below freezing in the teens, and so it froze. So it's been frozen, and then because of that, there wasn't as much sap that came out. We might have lost a little bit, but because it was warmer yesterday and today, it's starting to thaw, and that sap's starting to come out of the root system
Okay.
again. So we just gathered some 2-gallon buckets at a UK extension office. They did a maple class, and they were just dumping the sap out. And so I asked, what are you doing with it? And they said, you could have it. So I said, great. But it got below freezing the other day, and so you could see here that it froze. And so what I'll do is I'll just put this in what I'm boiling outside, and it'll melt down.
Okay.
But it makes it more difficult to get out. And a lot of times there is a little bit of, I'll show you here. Sometimes there will be a hollow spot.
Oh, yeah.
If you see that. So that was filled with sap, and then there was sap kind of around this whole structure of ice. And so there was, still some liquid in there because the last 2 days it's gotten above freezing during the day. So some of this ice has started to melt, but this is more difficult. So to get it, to have gotten it out before it got below freezing at night would have been more ideal.
Yes.
Because it is pretty labor intensive. We have to walk around when I get home from work and check the jugs or the buckets, walk around, gather them, untie them, dump it, put them back on the spile, tie it together, take the sap, and so now we use these buckets a couple years ago to collect sap, and there was the drill hole that I talked about where I put the tubes, and so now we'll collect it, and we'll put it in these buckets, and we'll put the lids on, and then we have a couple fridges that we use like in our garages, and so we put that in our garage, and so I'll boil this down about once or twice a week.
Okay.
So you have to take into consideration like gathering the sap every day or every couple days, the boiling, the time that it takes to boil it outside. And it took me, I started my fire a little after 4, and I brought everything in a little after 9.
Wow.
So once I started boiling it, that was more between like 4:30 and 5. So it's about like 4.5 hours of boiling, and it was a pretty good size fire, So it takes time.
How often do you check on it when it's boiling?
So I'll show you the pans that I have, but I'll check on it like every 30 minutes or 15 minutes. I'll kind of peek outside and kind of look. It's kind of below a window. So I'll check it out to make sure that the sap isn't too low in the pans that I use, because if it is, I need to put more sap in there so it doesn't burn.
Okay.
And I could talk about that when I show you what I use. But,
okay.
And if the fire's too low, I need to go out there and add wood to it.
Yeah.
To make sure it's a pretty good fire, because it's boiling all the water content off to get down to a higher concentrate of sugar and syrup.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about syrup or sap going bad and what the process of that is?
This sap here has a little different color than obviously the ice, and so sap can go bad just like milk can go bad. So if you left a gallon of milk outside and it got above freezing all day, and then you did that for a couple days, the milk wouldn't be good anymore. It could go bad. So sap is the same. It's not coming from a cow, obviously, but it has a shelf life.
Yes.
And so it could start to ferment, and it has kind of a bitter flavor to it.
Okay.
Like when I taste this, it's pretty watery, but there's a hint of sweetness to it. Whereas when it's gone, even though it has kind of a little yellow tinge to it, it's not bad.
Okay. Does it visually turn a different color?
Sometimes it does have kind of a greenish hue to it. What I've found normally, though, is when it's gone bad, it's cloudy.
Okay.
So you could look in here, and you could see to the bottom of the bucket, and you could see there's some bark sediment there and things like that. But when it's gone bad, what I've seen normally is it's cloudier, or if I kind of swish it around and there's kind of some cloudiness to it, that's kind of swirling around. I'm like, oh man, I either kept it in the fridge too long, or I didn't grab it off the tree quick enough.
Okay.
And it's really temperature dependent.
Yes.
And so I try to boil at least once a week, if not twice a week, because last year I let some of my buckets go.
Okay.
And at the end of the season, I just threw it all in my pans and I cooked it all together, and I didn't check it.
Yeah.
And then when we boiled it down, we boil it down pretty low outside, and then we'll bring it inside, and we'll do it over our stove, which has a vent, so that's helpful because it creates a lot of moisture because you're boiling off a lot of moisture.
Right. And
then we use a candy thermometer, and so what you want to do is, in order for it to get to a level of syrup that you want it to be 7 degrees above your whatever elevation you're at, whatever it takes to boil water, it needs to be 7 degrees above that.
Okay.
So where we live, it's 212 degrees. Based on our elevation, it needs to be 212 degrees for water to boil.
Okay.
And so the rule of thumb is to get at least 7 degrees more, so 219 degrees here. But what I found even is that's still pretty runny. That's pretty runny syrup. And so when we put syrup in a bottle and we tip it over with a lid and then we tip it back down, there's a little bit of space. I want to be able to see syrup kind of slowly run down the inside of that bottle.
Yeah.
And so I found I'd like to get it between 220 and 225.
Okay.
Somewhere between that degree range. Because just to get 7 degrees above boiling of water, it was just still too runny.
Okay.
But so we boiled down this sap, even though just a little bit of it was cloudy. I just didn't think about it, and the sap had a little just aftertaste tinge that just seemed a little off. So it wasn't horrible. So we kept that. We kept the syrup. I already did the labor for it,
right?
And so we just use it to kind of add to things that we cooked, like meats or marinades, things like that. So things that we were gonna cook, you know, and kind of cook off some of that stronger flavor, but still gave it that like sweetness and, you know, that we kind of wanted in whatever meat we were cooking or whatever dish.
That's a great idea.
So we were able to still use it. We just put question marks on all those bottles, so that we knew that those were kind of the iffy bottles.
Right.
But I mean, like, we wouldn't be able to sell that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But the sap that I boiled that wasn't cloudy, that syrup tasted fine. You know, so that was good. So it's just something to keep in mind, that you can't just put a 5-gallon bucket out there for like 3 weeks and then collect it at the end. Say you're at a different property, you know, and then you don't want to drive out there every day, and then you get it at the end of the 3 weeks and you haven't, you know, it's gotten above freezing during the day. It might not be good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it might be, but you just need to check it.
So if you're going to do this, you need to be very dedicated to what
and
you're doing.
it takes time, you know, like it's somewhat passive in that you're just letting the tree drip the sap into your bucket, but when it's time to collect it and boil it, you need to kind of be on it and have the time. But like when I'm boiling it, I don't have to just stand around the fire the whole day.
Sure.
You know, I just need to make sure there's enough sap in the pan that it doesn't burn, and that there's enough fire in it that it's doing its job of boiling that water content that I want off, you know.
But you can invite your friends over.
And you
hang
can have
out
a
around
good
the fire.
time, and we've had some friends that do that, and we just hang out and spend the day together, and it's great being outside and around a fire, and you know, and then you could have syrup afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's just a little bit.
Down below is more. But yeah, they call a place with a lot of maples where you have taps and sap, they call it a sugar bush. So it's like gardening, right? You go and you collect the tomatoes off the plane or the cucumbers. It's just with sap, you know, and so they call it a sugar bush.
I like that.
Yeah. A little more. This is silver. It was below freezing a couple days ago, so it kind of stopped. And yesterday it warmed up a little bit, and so we got about a half gallon today. It's a little warmer today too, above freezing. Arm workout.
Yeah.
Let her fill back up again. I'm gonna leave these over here. Sure. I might consider putting another tap in this tree. I only have 2 in it.
Yeah.
And based on the diameter rule that I talked about, where 1 tap for 10 inches, up to like 4 taps total, this one should easily take 4 taps, you know. I only have 2 in it right now, but again, it's not producing as much as I would expect.
Gotcha.
But it's still producing, so that's great. It looks like water,
good.
you know? Just a little bit of sweetness. And I tapped into this one for the first time too.
Is it doing pretty good?
It's big enough. I mean, it's a little bit, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's only a fifth or a sixth of a half gallon here, but still better than nothing. And that one over there, I just didn't feel like it was big enough quite yet. Give it a little bit more time to grow, get a little bigger. I have 18 maples here, so I mean I have plenty to tap. Something I read about commercially, like, or even like small, you know, kind of hobby farm is like 25 to 30 pretty big size maples where you have a few taps, and each one will give you enough to like sell a little bit off, you know, unless you just consume a lot of maple syrup, but, which is great. And if you have it, that's great, you know, that's a luxury. But if you have more than that, you could start to look at like selling it and having some for you, your family, friends, and then enough to sell, you know. So we have just below that. So yeah,
gotta start planting more.
I know, it's true. And sugar ones too, to boot. So
Yeah.
and then that one doesn't have any.
Okay.
And then that bigger brown tree you see in there is like this, the sugar. But we tapped it and it didn't give us anything. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Hey guys, if you like this video, please check the description below for links to items we may have used, as well as a link to our website, farmhacker.com, where you'll find more awesome stuff like this. Also, please subscribe to our channel and you'll be notified as soon as there are new videos posted. Thanks for watching.